friends, and welcome to another edition of Liberation and Unity with Grace. And I am very happy you're here on this last Monday of August 2020. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for liking and subscribing my videos, especially this one, so I can grow my YouTube channel. So here I am after a week away in Mexico at this time when we are all going through a massive catalyzing change on this planet. And as of, well, yesterday, there were all those amazing protests and peaceful, very, very peaceful protests in Berlin and London. Thousands of people showing up. And we are breaking open. We are breaking open all the things. I'm going to get right to it. I'm going to go into all the various topics that are going to be woven into my kind of way of communicating with you. There are lots of topics in the air, in my own consciousness. There are lots of topics that people are wanting to know about and have conversation around. We are moving through a tight spot, and it is only August. It's going to get a little more intense in these next few months, for sure. From what I understand on astrology level, September and October are the real intense months. Okay, so if we consider that, we can almost brace ourselves, right? And we can almost in a way, prepare ourselves how we can best individually and energetically, collectively support ourselves and each other going through a momentous time on this planet. You know, I think one of the trip ups at times is this feeling that we are going through something that is not survivable. And after traveling just even to Mexico, I was like, wow, you know, there are these sort of restrictions that are being kind of placed on us in many different ways, but they're also cracking, aren't they? People are done. There's so many people that are just really done with a lot of the lies, a lot of the narratives, a lot of the systemic problems that we've been having that have been under the surface are coming up to the surface to be seen, and we are starting to deal with them collectively in a different way. Some of those topics are, oh boy, I have a lot of things to talk to you all about today. I do want to say right off the bat that I am going to just say how I say it and do what I do, no editing here like I always tell you, but also I'm probably feeling to do some version of a channeling today, depending upon how this all goes. So one of the things I wanted to start off with is that what I'm seeing is we've all been going through this various ways. We're all going through this divisionary consciousness. But what's about to happen, I feel, and what I feel and see and sense with other people is people are really done with that. The truth is most people are really good people. Most people want goodness, right? And we're trying to find our way through some really thick stuff that has been building for a really long time that needs an absolute dismantling. And so as that is happening, it is asking all of us to grow. That is asking our relationships to grow. That is asking our interpersonal relationship with ourselves to grow. That's always one of the key things, as you know, I'll always be bringing up. Today, one of the things I want to talk about is how we support ourselves and each other and our children. And if you don't have children, you are a child on the earth. You had a childhood. You are in your own process as a human. But really, we're all collectively healing childhoods, whether or not that is through our actual parenting or through our own lived life experience. Because you cannot you cannot grow unless you look at where you come from. You can't really heal unless you look at where you've been, where you've come from, your environment, your family. And so there's a very big theme for us about we're kind of all growing up, and we're passing that torch on to the growing upness of to our children, to our friends' children. There's a lot of issues in the narratives and in the collective about children. In part, the basics. Let's just talk about some of the basics. The basics being like that children are having to wear masks, and it's really not supportive. Some people don't believe that. But I think the bigger piece of the narrative around children is what we're seeing in the wider conversation that's pretty rough, which is the pedophilia and the child trafficking, the sex slavery and child trafficking, basically all of those really dark, heavy-duty things that, for the most part, for so many billions of people, they did not want to look at until, I would say, the first 6 months of 2020. I personally had always been looking at that. I was always aware of all of these things, and it's been a really tough one. You know, for many years, I really had a lot of pain around that. My own personal stories, but also just knowing what was happening to other people and other children. And then after I did so much work, 25 or more years, definitely more, 30 years of work around these issues, and I was working with women along the way, one of the things I know in working with women and men is that it's all the time, that there is sexual abuse so much more than people are willing to look at. And listen, I know that this is probably not a lot of your favorite topics. No one really wants to talk about it, and I understand that. So if you want to turn me off, I get it. If you want to make your way through this piece, I'm not going to get super graphic, nothing like that. What it is to talk about this really dark stuff that nobody really wants to talk about as real is an important piece in liberating the energy that helps us see it, face it, deal with it, see it when it's happening, call it when you feel an intuition, protect our children, protect ourselves. I would be having this kind of conversation with my own daughters who are late teenagers, early 20s. And I think it's an important conversation. Here's why. There's so many pieces of this, okay? I'm going to try to keep my train of thought streamlined. I'll just talk to you about this most recent piece. Being in Mexico, I don't care where you go. You could go down to Santa Monica Boardwalk, which is 40 minutes from my house. You could go down to, maybe it's not 40, it's probably longer. You can go to another country. You can go down the street in your own neighborhood. And there's oftentimes just inappropriate behavior. We've become a culture, especially, that is highly brought up on these programs of over-sexualization. I watched it from the 80s when I was a kid to all the way through the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s. And when I had my own kids, I was like so aware of the extremity of how much more the culture, the music, the television was so much more graphic, how much more it was acceptable for young children to be extremely over-sexualized. Now, what we are seeing in 2020 is the revelation of how extreme that has been and why. Why? Because there is a very dark energy system on this planet that essentially feeds off of that. And when you watch too much porn, when you get too desensitized, when you do not recognize the sacredness of love and life and sexuality, the sacredness of sexuality, and you are just diving deeper into more and more stimulation, you lose the connection to the sacredness of it. And then you have to go farther, harder, more into various types of depravity, in my opinion, for that satiation, is that right? Of something inside that is not being satiated, because most of the time there's something that's feeding off of that, and it needs more. Now, we could talk about that as negative energies. We could talk about that as dark energies. We could talk about that in all the different ways that people do. The one way I want to focus it, I think, on this bit of the conversation has to do with the perpetrator and the way that our overall system has held this in our overall experience as human beings. Let's just break this down. When I was traveling, here's the thing. I could say this about, I can go to the store, I can go down here, I can go anywhere, and I see these things. I see the way that people hook into each other, the way that there is something that is missing and people are trying to fill it. Okay, so that's the first piece. If we move over a little bit to our system for thousands and thousands of years has made women, especially, and children, boys and girls, the most vulnerable and the most owned and victimized, okay? The masculine and the men. Now, I am not man shaming or blaming, or I'm just not man bashing. But because I do know that women have played a part in this for thousands of years as well. It's not about the gender. But I will say that very often the hierarchical connection to the masculine or the men being the ones who could dominate because they are bigger and stronger and they had more ability to own, dominate, and control, abuse with violence and rape, etc. They had more power that way. So that has been going on, and I know you can't deny that. Whether or not a woman played a part in that is not really what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is this system that we've been in, which is that men could own women, and men could own and dominate women and children easier than a woman could own men and children. You see what I'm saying? So there is that. It's still happening all the time in so many different ways. And one of the ways it's happening is that we are still, and this is one of the other themes that's pervasive in our dealing with everything that's happening right now, which is, if you talk about people having enough and not having enough, whether or not that's through their race, their social status, their gender, to not have enough and to have more than enough leaves the ones who don't have enough into the position to need to figure out ways in order to have enough. And one of those ways has been the awfulness of selling children, selling women, giving your children up, teaching your children how to be the way that would support them or survive them through selling themselves, or very often they're raised in this culture, right? Their culture of, if you are a small child, obviously, and you are raised in any kind of home where there is violence or physical, emotional, psychological, or sexual abuse, that if that starts when you're young, that's what you know. For billions and billions and billions of people throughout time, this has been the reality. It is happening all day, every day. There are women and men who absolutely sell their own children. There are women and men who absolutely continue the perpetuation of this abuse in every way. And then there are those ways that, it has escalated on this planet in regards to human trafficking, literally the kidnapping and stealing of babies and children and young girls and boys of all ages. And here's the thing. It's time for us to wake up to this. It's time for us to pay attention. When I go into an airport and I can see a 17, no older than a 17-year-old, with a 60-year-old man, 50-year-old man, any age in his 50s, I'm sure, and they are holding hands, and you're going to tell me that 16, 17-year-old girl made that choice because that is what she likes? No. When I was in the pool at one of the particular places I stayed, I can always see it. I can smell it. I can feel it. And I got a little closer to this older man. What I mean by older man, he was probably in his 50s, late 50s. And he was talking to a probably 30-something-year-old, another guy. It was like the 30-year-old was scouting out for the older guy. And the older guy was making friends with the 30-year-old. And the 30-year-old was sort of telling him about the different ladies, or not, in the area of the pool. And the guy was saying, oh, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And I was just listening, but I already saw it. You can see when someone is putting out the energetic field, scanning, looking, hunting. And it is happening all day long. Like, this older man was like, well, if it doesn't work with those ones, which those ones were probably late 20s, early 30s. And that looked like too much work to him. He was noticing the 3 young girls who were definitely only in their early teens, probably 14 to 17. And he said, yeah, well, if it doesn't work with them, hey, maybe we should go over and talk to them. And I watched him do it. And thank goodness those young girls were actually with their mother, grandmother, I think, mother, grandmother, and probably their family. I didn't notice everybody. And they could see it. They could spot it. They could spot what he was doing, his energy. It was leaky. It was gross. He was asking how old they were. And, I'm going to tell you that this happens all the time in all kinds of places. And that is a specific kind. I'm not specifically talking about the kind where people are literally stolen, right? It's just so pervasive. It's everywhere. And why I'm bringing this up is because I want for you all to pay attention. One of those things that Osairah always says, pay attention. That's when I just said it and I just heard them say it. And I want you to pay attention to people, to people's energies, to children, to teenagers, to what's happening around you. People don't pay attention to what's happening around them. I do. I really do. I've been this kind of person who, when I see weird stuff going on, I literally will walk directly up to the energy of it, and I will look at that person, and I will directly tell them, I know what you're doing. There's been times where I've said, I don't know what's happening here, but I don't think it's appropriate. I've said things like that. I know that that's probably, a lot of people would say that's not my business, but I can feel that there's sometimes things where people need to say something. And it's not about being it's not about being a snitch, you know what I'm saying? It's about seeing that there's something wrong, inherently wrong here. And that's not always easy to see. It's not easy to see when it's someone who's in a family system. It's not easy to see. But like in that case, I just watched it, and here's what happened. It's not the specifics that happened in the pool, because those young girls, they were like blowing him off. Thank goodness they had enough awareness to do so. There are young women who are not aware enough to do so. There are young boys who are not aware enough to know that when a person is putting a lot of attention on them, that it's probably possibly for something else. I pray all the time that we all wake up to this, that we begin to teach each other this, that we begin to support our children about this, that teachers support each other about teaching children about this, that those of us who've had, I've worked with so many people, men and women, as I said, who've had sexual abuse, that those of us who heal that, who begin to see it in other situations, take a stand for it. So what happened is, when I was watching that, it made me remember. It made me remember of all the times I was a teenager, young girl, little girl, where there was inappropriateness, whether or not that was with a coach, whether or not that was with someone at the beach, whether or not that was with a manager at a restaurant that I worked with at. That all the times that the inappropriate behavior was some way acceptable, and how I learned how to say no, how I learned to make my energy a big fat no, how I learned to become invisible when I needed to become invisible. So I know that this is not one of those spiritual talks, right? But it is, because see, we are all spiritually evolving past an old system that needs to go, which connects to a very dark, Luciferian, energetic connection on this planet. And it is fed, truly, by the innocents being stolen, being raped, being tortured. So I am, I can talk about this in private. To talk about this here is harder, because I know how people don't want to hear it. I get it. When you're in public, pay attention to people's energy. Pay attention to children. Right now, it is a real thing. I was kind of really sensitive to the fact that some of these kids were having to wear masks, and some of them looked uncomfortable. I just was like, it doesn't make me super suspicious of everything and everyone. I feel the energy. So I'm asking for you, if you are in any way feeling strong and capable with this type of topic, to pay attention, to kind of question what's going on in the world in your immediate environments. We got a lot of healing to do. There's no doubt about that. We've got a lot of awakening to do around these issues. But the reason I'm putting a spotlight on it is because it is up in the world, right? There is a real, true problem with human trafficking. There is a real, humongous problem with children being stolen or bred into systems of extreme abuse and physical, sexual abuse. And there's very often so much more that is happening than we're really seeing. And people don't want to talk about it or believe it. The cognitive dissonance here is really, really big. I know from the first 6 months of this year that most people are waking up to it, especially through social media and all the various documentaries. So I will tell you that I was far more aware of this stuff for all my life. For 25 years ago, 35 years ago, 40 years ago, I was aware. But as I grew up and I became a woman and I dealt with this head on with lots of different ways, I was even more aware of the music, of the child programming. I really kept my children particularly away from as much of the things that I could see, the direct programming happening. Songs, oh my goodness, I would just turn them off before my little, really baby young children in the car could hear, because I know they literally program you. There is frequency and sound in music, not only the words, but it literally entrains you subliminally to be at a different frequency than our natural, organic, human frequency of love and our soul's process for ascension. And so we have to be aware that that is actually happening in order to not listen to it, not watch it. I mean, it was a joke in my relationship. I had a relationship for 10 years and while I was raising my kids, and it was kind of a joke, but it was a little annoying, I'm sure, as we would always go to these various movies. And I would see the programming. I could see the direct subliminal programming. I could see the way that they were doing things, saying things, the themes. I could see it all. And it was awful. I didn't even enjoy it. And he didn't enjoy it because I was like, oh my God, do you see that? Do you see that? Do you see that? Oh my God, it's so blatant. Well, that's the way it's been for years. They, who's they? People always say, well, who's they? Aren't we they? And in a certain sense, we are. When we realize what is happening, we can sign on or sign off. I signed off. I sign off. I do not agree to the dark Luciferian agendas. I do not agree to child sacrifice. I do not agree to child's rape and torture. I do not agree. I do not sign on, and I say no. And the way that we do that is individually, we start to make our own declarations. That is one thing that I am really big on in my work with people. Osairah is very, very much about that. And of course, the divine feminine is all about the vows to the divine, the vow and the declarations to that which is our innate benevolence to grow and become higher beings of consciousness. This is what we're doing. But if you don't wake up to it and then say no to the things that you see, then you are, in a certain sense, that cognitive dissonance or that choice to not say, no, I won't listen to that, or I won't do that, or I won't watch that stuff. You don't understand how much we are programmed. Well, you may understand it. I shouldn't say that. I hope you understand how much we are programmed. My culture agreements, right, have gotten so much smaller. I listen to good things. I listen to higher frequencies. I listen to love songs. And here's another thing I'm going to tell you. I'll share you one thing with me. In regards to love songs, many, many years ago, one of the other things that music can do is it can heal us. It can make us feel things, right? It can, it's truly, I love music so much. I love so much music, right? And many years ago, I started to realize that sometimes I felt triggered by songs, right? Like, because you hear a song, it makes you think of this or that person or that time and all those things. And I started to want ownership, not like I was at the whim of whenever any song would come on. And then I started to see through my own healing, psychological, emotional healing, I started to realize that music with the right words and the right frequency sounds and literally the hertz that it's programmed with can change your physical, emotional state. You can be triggered and subliminally go into another kind of state of consciousness. And when I started to realize that, I was like, I'm not going to give away my power like that. I love some of these some of these things, but they would almost make me feel entrained for codependence, or it would almost make me be feeling like I was, I don't know, getting sad when I wasn't sad. Or the big one was this idea around romantic love songs. And if I didn't have a romance in my life at that time, well, oh my God, I don't have anybody special to think about, right? That's kind of one of those things that I think people have often thought, right? And what I started to realize is that I wasn't going to buy into the regular narrative of whatever that was for. Whether or not I wasn't being suspicious, I wasn't being paranoid. I'm just saying that I was taking full ownership of how I felt. And when I heard certain love songs, you know what I decided to do? I started to think of this. This is a trick. Maybe you can use it. And maybe you can really appreciate these songs now that you might think of for a love or romance or a partner or your beloved. You might also want to consider listening to it as if it is your own love for yourself, your own love for God, if you will, source, light, love, all that is, however that works for you. For me, it was like, source, the thing that sometimes I feel like I was lacking, or I can even still feel that, like, wait, we're all feeling so separate. We all feel so separate from God, right? Or whatever. Well, I started to use, instead of thinking of it as a certain someone, I would think of it as the infinite eternal God of my heart, of my own being, of me, of this one that I am, who's come here to wake myself up and to be, in right relationship with myself and the world around me. So if that love song, I don't have a somebody, which currently I do. I love my partner. I'm very, very happy. And sometimes I think of those songs for him. And a lot of the time, I think of them for the relationship with my I and I, my relationship with the I and I presence of all that is God, Goddess, Mother, Father, God, the infinite, eternal source of love, right? So that's a little thing, a side note I want to share with you. Use that if it helps for whatever reason. If that is to connect to music in a new way, maybe that'll help. So back to the other stuff. So in our culture, we have so much subliminal programming going on and we don't know it. And that's not just the news, although it is the news. The news drives narratives and creates a culture of consciousness. That culture of consciousness amplifies energy and creates a system of society and pushes agendas. That is happening all day, every day with these medias, mainstream and alternate. All the things that are going on social media, we are driving this stuff with our conscious connection to it. The same goes for the issues about children. The same goes for turning our hearts and our minds off to the issues with children. I'm not saying you have to live in it. I'm not saying you have to live in it every single day and worry about it and stress about it. But I am saying wake up to that it's real. Wake up to that. What can you do? Wake up to, do you need to heal your own inner child stuff? Do you have abuse in your own life that you need to work on and heal at a next level? If you've never engaged with some of it, it is time probably to deal with it inside of ourselves first. Again, remember, that's one of my key things. We have to deal with the things that present on the outside are somewhere within us. I'll tell you, I know this because when I'm triggered by anything on the outside, the first place I go is, where is that really? I mean this, where is that in me? And a lot of times I have those issues. Recently, I was responding to a post on a Facebook video that I had posted, and someone asked me a question about that video as taking it to me, taking it that I posted it because I was some way agreeing to something that I was in no way agreeing with. But she asked the question and I addressed it. And I said, no, I'm not agreeing with that idea, whatever the idea was. But I did say that I could see how people are acting a certain way and I relate to that. That is not the way I think it's going to solve the issues or the problems, but I can understand because I can feel and have felt those things inside myself at times, why people are acting out, why they are doing these things, because the buildup is so great, because the rage inside of them has not been dealt with. Here's the trick. When we deal with our own inner dialogue, our own inner pain, our own inner abuse, our own inner critic, our own inner depression, our own inner addictions, our own inner codependency, and see them play out outside of ourselves constantly, we eventually have to go, where is that in me? And the more that we do our own inner deep diving and do the work inside of ourselves, what happens is an alchemical process. We begin to change. We change. And then when you see the things on the outside, I'm not triggered the same way as I used to be. I'm not triggered the same way as I used to be because that thing in me I worked on so much that there's been a transmutation. I transformed, I melted it down, it has become a new, and there's a different response now. It's like it's not a neutralness the way that, but it is. It's seeing it and understanding it completely, understanding where that person is coming from, understanding the rage, the anger, the sadness, the discrepancies in the feelings of the discrepancies in the injustices, feeling the victimhood. I understand that because I have really transmuted it, but I'm not triggered the way I used to have been, the way that I see people are being triggered. And it doesn't make me any better. It doesn't make it wrong that they're being that. In a certain sense, what it is we are all acting out our stuff to heal this stuff, to heal the victim, the perpetrator, the hierarchical differences, the ways that it is that there is a victim and a perpetrator. We are having to play it out and see it. We are having to heal it within, call it, see it on the outside, so that we can transform it with each other on the outside and the inside. This is an inside, outside, inside, outside, inside, outside job. So when I originally started the conversation about that, we are dealing with our children. Here's the thing, people, my friends, my family, humanity, people on earth, we have to pay attention to what we are doing to our children because they are the future. We have to pay attention to loving them, to helping them, to slowing down and communicating with them, to taking away the things that do not serve them. If that machine out there is toxic and sick and hurtful and programming negatively, we have to take them out of that program. We have to stop and say no. We have to be stronger, braver, and more heart courageous to hold the frequency that says, you know what? We want a better world, a just world, a loving world. We don't want the perpetuation of more victimization, perpetrators. We do not want babies and children crying and dying at the hands of a really dark, malevolent force on this planet anymore. I don't. Do you? I don't. I don't. And it is one of those things. It is one of those heart-centered, soul-centered things for me because I was a child who went through a lot like that. And I have worked with women who have been in the most horrific experiences in their family dynamics, who have been in cults, who have been in at the hands of rape and other things that are just, it's so hard. I want to say this to any of you who would be listening, who has gone through that. I get it. I love you. I know. I'm there with you in the healing process, and we are healing. I wish I could, spout it off on the rooftops of all the women who have been so brave, of just the ones I've known. But I know women who work with women and women who work with women and men like myself who deal with these things and who work through and heal and come to the other side and become braver and stronger and wholer in the holy light of anything and everything that was done unto them has transformed them into the gold and is continuing so that the line stops here. That was the thing for me. I could see in my own family system the unconsciousness, or I would say not just necessarily the unconsciousness, I could just see the generational sickness in many different ways, however that would show up. Addictions, distraction, checked outness, abuse in different ways. I could see it and I experienced it and I grew up with it, and I said, no, this ends with me. This ends with me. I will not allow this in my life and in my home with my children, and it ends here. And I heal it first with me. I heal it first with me. I heal it first with me. And so that's what I've been spending my whole life doing. And this is just one piece of the whole of my life, right? And that's what I'm saying. When we go out into the world and we pay attention, we notice the things. We begin to notice the things. We wake ourselves up and we say, wait, what's really going on over there? Question. It's fair. I mean, really. We're afraid to question things. And it's time. We need to. The system is broken. People are broken. Things are sick. Things are twisted. It's time for us to question it. It is your business. This is your family. This is my family. This is my family. We are on this planet and we are a part of the whole, of the change, of creating a new future. And it is beginning right now. This is the way. This is how we're doing it. So I want to say that I feel like in the whole of the collective, how we move through this is that everybody is at different paces, right? We're all at different stages. Some of us have really healed a whole lot and we're really helping other people. And then there are people who are really just learning how to help themselves. We all have to do that. Listen, I was doing that in my 20s. I was trying to figure out how to hold my own, how to hold my own. I did not understand how to be healing myself and then, not falling into these other kinds of traps. We're all at different stages. Right now, this is an unprecedented time, obviously. We're here to hold light. We're here to hold love. We're here to hold the kind of things that we want to see in the future. So how we plug in to the things, it's not to say if you plug into the things that are true, that are really dark, you're going to create more dark. Okay, pay attention. I think that there's this sometimes a trip up. People are like, I don't want to think about it because then I'm creating it. I get it. There's a sticky slope. There's a funny slope there. But what it's more like is we have to become actually awake. We have to wake up to what is, rather than half asleep, subtly and not so subtly being complicit with the things. If we don't wake up, we are complicit because we are just not using our whole self, our whole sovereign power as a human entity of consciousness to affect the physical materialization, manifestation world around us. And we do affect it. We do help create it. But if you are looking at the things that you don't want, that's in order for you to transmute it. And that means you can wake up so that eventually when you go through the really tough stuff of that, the breakdown, the heartbreak, the cognitive dissonance melds back together and you go, oh my God, it is so real. And you have your emotional responses. That's healthy. It's not healthy to pretend it doesn't exist and then just carry on. That's not really healthy. If we transmute it by letting it flow through us, it releases. This begins to make the change energetically on the outside. Does that mean you take an action and you join a group? Maybe. Does that mean you actually become someone who maybe rescues children? Maybe. Does that mean you pay attention in your family different or your friends different? Maybe. It doesn't mean you become paranoid or, super suspicious. It means you wake up. You recognize from a neutral perspective that all these things are happening and you are here to hold a vibration for these things to change. And in any way, on an action level, if you feel inclined, if it is at your doorstep, you're willing to take that step. If not, then you at least are working on yourself. You are healing your own wounds. You are seeing how you can rise up and be a better conscious connection to change on this planet for children, for women. So back to the piece about how, sorry, whoops, how, the power. Very often I see that, we're in survival mechanisms all the time, and we don't recognize how much we are in survival. And so the way to open that up is to get really present. I'm going to always go back to that as well. The more present we can be, the more conscious we become, the more attuned to the environment and the people and the situations we become. We heighten our intuition by becoming present. When we are really plugged in and soft, we sense, see, feel more. So sometimes that has been hard for me personally. I'm super attuned. I'm very aware. I see through things. And I sometimes can't do anything about that, right? That has been one of the harder burdens for me. It's like, how do I go up to someone and say something? I mean, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And what I'm saying for you is for us as a collective whole, is for children and in this world, we have to protect children. We have to be advocates for child safety in every way. That might mean right now, no masks, because child trafficking is happening with masks more probably than ever before. Some people don't believe these things, by the way. Okay. It is not what I know, and it is not my experience on many different levels. So talking about this, as I know, is hard. We need to raise the consciousness around it. We need to support the people who are out there actually doing the work and trying to rescue children. And we need to wake up to the truth about there is very dark, malevolent people on this planet. Now, maybe they're not even people, but how we do that is we begin to make the effect of change within our own life. And then we start to say what is. And, I think the less any of us are in denial, the more that it will change. The less we are in denial, the more we're willing to face the things that are pretty rough. The clearer we become, the purer we become. We can funnel the energies quicker, and we can deal with things that we don't necessarily want to deal with. So I don't have an end-all be-all. I don't have the big fat answers. I just know what it is that we need to face. I know that it is not healthy to live in denial. I know that there are children suffering. I know that there are things happening on this planet that nobody really wants to admit or look at, and now people are. People are, and it is not a political agenda. This is reality 101, and it is happening, and we need to face it. And there are lots of different ways we can deal with that. I know that that is not an easy thing. If you have your own children, or if you are a kid or a child, what I mean by that is, 18 and older, because generally this doesn't go out to anybody else. But I'm saying, pay attention, take care of ourselves, our children, make people become conscious of these things, not in a fearful way. And I get how what I'm saying, there's possibly this like, well, how do we do that? Not in fear, Grace. It's like holding a pot of understanding that it is all here. Okay, it's all here. So what are we going to do about it? We're going to face it. We're going to deal with it. We're going to see that it is here, and we're going to try to heal it. We're going to look at it. We're going to go in and try to fix these problems. Fixing them means we have to wake up to them. Fixing them means we got to look at that there is a really dark side to a lot of the things that are out there in the world. If we stop paying for that, if we stop inviting it in our own homes and in our own lives, if people stopped watching porn, men and women and children. If it was not used, if it all wasn't used, what would happen? Where would it go? We are in a time of a great purification of our hearts, minds, souls, and bodies. I'm not talking about extremism in regards to religion. I'm talking about the purity and the sanctity, the sacredness of life and love and sexuality, and that there is a right time for right things, and that we are and have been unconscious for a long time, and we are all evolutionarily growing up. And right now, we are, as a whole, waking up to really hard realities, and a lot of people don't want to. I get it. I do. I've experienced that. I've lost people, and I didn't say lost, but I've had people turn away when they didn't want to, face these things that, sometimes they're like attachments. Sometimes they're like, hard truths. People don't want to talk about them. A lot of people who have been victims don't want to talk about it. I get that. And I say that, being one of those people, I know that the only way out is through. And the greatest healing and freedom and liberation is on the other side of the fear of the pain being reignited or looked at or felt. We become whole and we wash ourselves clean. And if we don't buy into the things that connect, right, like that feed it, then it loses its power. So that's one of the things that's happening, and especially I believe that's going to happen in the next 2 to 6 months as well. There's a massive push for the things that have been the way they have been to keep holding on to what they hold on to be fed, to harvest. So here is my bottom line with this, and I'll stop for now with my rant, Grace's rant, is that it is important for us to return to the sacred inner place. I really believe in this time that our own inner prayer, our own inner dialogue is probably one of the most important things you are going to be adding in to the collective at this time. Your willingness to be devoted to prayer, love, light, goodness, to pray for children and people who are suffering, for the transmutation to shift us into a higher octave and frequency of love and light. I am not just saying that'll magically make everything go away. There's work to be done. We're going to have to face the work over the years to come. It's not just going to be a magic pill. So I'm not saying that at all. It is the time for us to purify old systems, to see where it is hiding in us and how we feed it in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't mean we have to be perfect beings. It just means, how am I doing? Where do I really stand? And what am I adding in? And, when we're triggered, it's easy to feel the things that are a response to the trigger. Oh, I hate this, I hate that, right? And I've been one of those people at times in my life. And I realized over time of living like that, how negatively that was impacting me. The same could be said for me about pedophiles. It's been my issue for my whole life. And I still sometimes have that thing where I say, they don't even, there's no hope. I'm going to be blunt. I say there's no hope. They just need to be wiped off the face of the earth. And sometimes I really justifiably feel that. And that's probably my human self, my mother, my young woman and little girl inside of me. That's my raging Kali Ma part of me that says, no, I'm going to slay all the demons. We all have some of that in us, And I have that sometimes pretty strong still, and I'm not going to deny it. Sometimes I really think that the world would be so much better if those beings were just slayed. Maybe that's true. I don't actually know. Maybe it's not true. Maybe I have to use myself as an example here. Look at the pedophiles and the horrificness straight on. I do not accept that. I do not accept that for children, like I said. But maybe I have to see that they come here to play a part too. And I will tell you that there's a certain measure of me that has done that work. This is tricky conversation, especially when I'm just sort of talking with you to the camera. And I have to see where it lands, right? Because this may be a thing nobody wants to talk about. Y'all may not even want to watch. You may not even be watching still. But for me personally, there has been many ways that I have done the work around this, and many ways that I have healed around this. And my own particular perpetrators in my life, I could see as very sick. And I could see that they played an amazing catalyzing part in my own journey. Ultimately, there can be enough true traumatic healing. There can be enough true and real trauma healing that you can transform the kinds of horrendous experiences into gratitude to have made you be the most that you are, the next level, that you used it, that I personally used it for my next levels of my own greatness, my own willingness to see through it all. And it is a pure forgiveness. It's like I came here to learn the greatest lessons through all the things that I have experienced in this world. And I will take every piece of anything that I am given. And, that's not easy. I mean, really, I'm not saying that lightly. Last night I was crying hard with my daughter about grief and loss and death because it's in our family system right now. And it feels unfair. Life hurts a lot. And I know a lot of people are experiencing that on this planet on a daily basis. And that when we go through things and we shift out of them into, I'm good now, and we have good times and good life, sometimes we get complacent and forget how painful life can be. I get that. I want you to know that I am not saying that I'm beyond that. No way. Life hurts sometimes badly. And so for my heart and soul, I say that for anybody hurting through these issues, being triggered by these issues that are up in the collective consciousness, out in the news, out in documentaries, being talked about like crazy, I love you, and you can do it. You can get through it. That's what we're here to do with each other. And if you're a man or a guy and you've been watching this thus far, pay attention. If you've had this kind of pain in your own life and your own experiences, I send you so much love, and you can heal too. We can all heal these things. We can all transmute. We can all step into our sovereign self, our empowered, conscious, awake, neutral, loving, light-filled being. And that's not bypassing. You have to do the work. You have to face it. You have to feel it. And when you feel it completely and it drains out of you completely, there is freedom. There is love. There is the next level. It's a big topic. There's lots to say. I hope I've touched on some things that have helped, that have maybe pointed the way towards some of it. I don't have all the answers, for sure. But I know the conversation needs to keep being had. So, please let me know what you think and how you feel, and let me know in the comments, and share with me, if there's any more you want to hear about in regards to that. So I said I would do a channeling. I don't even know how much time I've been going. Oh my God, it's been an hour. See, sometimes with Grace, it's just an hour. Sometimes it's 20 minutes. Okay, this is a big topic. I did say I would do a channeling. Let's see. How about if I do a channeling? Let's see what's coming up for now. Okay, here, yeah. Okay. Oh, I'm just going to say it'll be a somewhat short one. So let's go in and see what needs to come through right now. All right. Indeed, I am here, dearest ones. I am Divine Mother Mary, and in this moment I speak as the Mother. All names, all faces. And in this moment, I come forward in the light of love. For my heart is your heart, and at the essence of your being, there is only love. This is why you come. My dearest ones, children on this plane and this planet, you have come for a great time, and in many ways a reckoning. This is for the soul's journey, as this beautiful daughter does say. And how you are here at this time is a joy to behold. Some of you suffer more than others in this moment, and I see you truly. I hear your cries, and I want you to know in this moment the essence of my love surrounds you. And this not is only my love, for it is what you are and a part of. It is that your light particles, your atoms, your cells, your blood, the way in which your bones are, your consciousness, the living embodiment and the presence of that which you are, is participating in the most beautiful orchestration to be. You are holding frequencies of the new world. You are holding the consciousness, beloved ones. You are holding the awakening within. This is an energetic signature that is to be felt and known. Those of you who can touch hearts and minds, activate, activate, activate at this time. Those of you who are the remembrance of previous times, and that what is to be moves through you. This, I say, is what you are here being, becoming, and doing. It is the eternal light force of the love of creation itself that you are. Yes, these topics and that which this beautiful daughter has said today, has talked about, is barreling down on you all. I am keenly aware there is great suffering. And yet, beautiful, dearest souls, your courage is monumental. Your ability to indeed transform this world is within you. It has already begun. And yes, every one of you are the little children that are becoming the future. You are holding the future. You are the future, each and every one of you. Wherever it is that your station in this world is, however it is that you have become to be here now, I say, dearest ones, your light is immeasurable. Your love is the truth of your everything. To share and shine and hold your light, to give it no matter what is occurring, to offer it openly is everything. To stand firm and strong and make a stand where you need is a part of the journey at times. For it is like the sea. You ride the big waves at times, and then you crash down, yes, not crash hard, but you learn to swim. And sometimes, yes, it is important for you to ride the wave all the way in and rest. Soak up the sun, sleep, recover, and begin again. So I say, take that as the metaphor for your life. Loving and honoring the divine feminine within each and every one of you means a respite, means that you allow for yourself the kind of nurturance and receiving, the receivership that helps you see rightly, the kind of receiving that is even here in my words, my voice, my heart, coming through this beautiful one. For it is that I am with each and every one of you, speaking to your heart, to your own memory, to your own truth, to the soul incorporated in this body, the way that you have come to be the light upon this world. For many I see you feel in isolation, and I say this, you are not isolated. You are so blessed. Reach out to others. Reach out your heart. Reach out your love. Connect to the eternalness of your own being, and then offer that up as the golden light signatures that are connecting and changing the fabric of this plane of existence. For you are advancing. For many of you, I see at times even you feel this word called illness, either that is emotional or physical. Emotional illness or physical illness sometimes is one and the same, and so I say to you, return to your heart, to love. Do what it takes to remember your heart, your innocence, your joy. Do the work that brings you to the other side, as she does say. I hold with you these, for there is an eternal expansion occurring, and I say to you this, with a firm connection to your heart and soul, for those of you who have the ears to hear, and the eyes to see, and the heart to feel fully. There is a great change occurring, and love is always the answer. Hold love. Be love. Ignite this love in you, of you, for you, with you, to you, and it will spill forward into the world, and you are anchoring the future in these ways. It is all that I am with you now. I indeed send forth this entirety of love encoded now. I love you all. My heart is your heart divine. Hi. Whew. I didn't know that it was going to be Mother Mary. So for those of you who may not have had that experience with me, now you have. Thank you for being here with that. She is beautiful, powerful, sometimes fierce and sometimes so incredibly gentle. Most of the time always so gentle, but sometimes very direct. There has been such great healing in my life with the Divine Mother. There has been so much healing in the transmission to others of Mother Mary. And it has been offered back to me so many ways, and I am so grateful. I do not take credit. I just know that I allow that to come through, and I hope that met you right where it needed to. So I have definitely done a long episode here on liberation and unity with Grace. And I hope that I served you well today. I hope I served you well today. So thank you for sticking through, as there's a big horn out there ending our ending our show today. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for sticking it out if you're at the end with me. And I hope this helps. Let me know. And I look forward to next Monday. Sending you all so much love, so much light. Hang in there. We got this. I'll see you next Monday. Until next time.